Hey, you're listening to Rising into Mindful Motherhood. I'm your host, Dr. Katie Wood. I'm a barefoot mama bear, pharmacist, integrative fertility health coach, and lover of all things nature and animals. I'm on a mission to have intentional conversations about the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to fertility, pregnancy, postpartum, and beyond. My mindful guests and I will be talking about struggles, wins, natural wellness, and how we grow and transform as we enter motherhood. My background in healthcare has shown me how broken our medical system is. My own struggles to become pregnant has shown the lack of support for mamas to be, the lack of guidance for women to have a nourishing and vibrant pregnancy, the isolation, mom guilt, and all the things we hold after bringing baby earthside. I want this platform to be a place where women can feel connected, safe, and supported to share and hear their stories. A place to use our voice to discuss and advocate about what we need and deserve as mothers. So let's dive in, shall we? Hello and welcome to Rising into Mindful Motherhood. Today I'll be talking with Lauren. She is a mother, teacher of teachers, healer, coach, and therapist in her virtual clinical practice. Lauren is also the founder of Sacred Fertility Yoga, which is a union of her academic, spiritual, and personal experiences. And she has helped hundreds of women on their path to fertility. And today we'll be discussing her own fertility journey and conception at 45, as well as how yoga was beneficial for her and can be beneficial for you on your fertility journey. So to just give like a little brief synopsis, I happen to find Lauren on Instagram. We connected a little bit in the DMs, and then I was listening to a fertility summit, and little did I know she was actually a guest on the summit. And I listened to her interview. I absolutely loved it. She was speaking my language, and I just had to have her on the podcast. So thank you so much for being here, Lauren. Welcome. I'm so happy to have you here.
Well, thank you, Katie. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. I love to share my story. I feel so blessed that I was able to have such a miraculous experience on my fertility journey, ultimately. And I am here, really, I think part of my mission in this lifetime is to, and part of the reason I went through what I went through was so that I can share my story and inspire other women who are on the journey to not give up hope and to know that, anything is possible.
I couldn't agree more. So, yeah, let's dive in. What did your journey to motherhood look like?
Well, I started late. So, I was a career woman. I lived and worked in New York City. I worked in fashion, and then I shifted midlife into a career as a social worker, and then I became a psychoanalytic psychotherapist and basically a healing professional. And when I decided to, I forgot my third career. And then after that, I became a partner in a yoga studio, and I opened a yoga studio, which is Sonic Yoga. It's been now 21 years. It's in Manhattan. It's actually a 5-star Google rated studio that's still operating and going strong. And it's a beautiful community of amazing people. So if you are ever in New York, check out Sonic Yoga. Feel free to DM me for a free pass. I'm happy to offer them. But yeah, so later in my probably around when I turned around 40, I met a man, and we decided to start to try to have a baby. And I was totally blindsided when people started saying I was old, or that I had advanced maternal age, or that my egg AMH was low, because it actually never occurred to me that that would be an issue, because I always felt so young. I had been practicing yoga for my whole life, living a yogic lifestyle, and I was really, really surprised. But I embarked on the journey. I followed my doctor's orders, and I saw a fertility specialist, and I felt they were really hurrying me along the medical route. And I don't know, I think I kind of just lost my faith. Um, I lost my integrity, my connection to my practice, because I really was so shaken and and so kind of traumatized, I think, by this idea that I wouldn't be able to have a baby. Like it really threw me off because it's something I always wanted my whole life, even though I waited, many years to have one. I just didn't never realize there was a rush. And so I just kind of lost my center. I would say I lost myself. I went kind of down a path of like disempowerment. Like I kind of lost my faith, lost my connection to my practice, my belief in the tradition of yoga and, spirit. And I just started grasping, grasping and did whatever the doctors told me, which was medication, hormones, treatments, IUI, IVF. Eventually, all that kept failing and failing as I kept getting more and more desperate, more and more hopeless, more and more unhealthy, stepping away from my practice, stepping away from my healthy way of living, my healthy lifestyle, because I was so stressed and so in such a state of fear and panic and trauma and frustration, anger, all the emotions that we get. And I ended up going to India to do a donor egg because I was like, okay, well, India is my motherland, the motherland of yoga. I'm going to go there. I'm going to try that. It's more spiritual. It's more mystical. And although it was a very beautiful experience, actually doing that, I didn't get pregnant. So at that point, I was contemplating adoption. And still feeling I had run out of funds, basically, my husband at the time, and I had run out of resources, and we were contemplating, fostering or adoption. And I started to take a look at our relationship and my connection to him and whether or not I felt he would be the kind of father that I wanted my child to have. So I started rethinking things, and I actually separated from him at that time. I made the conscious decision to move on, and it was a pretty rough time in my life because now I had no partner, I had no baby, no partner. I was kind of like, at a complete loss. But I still had my yoga studio and I still had my practice. And it was at that time that I really went back to my yoga practice. Like I went on a very deep personal retreat. I left. I was living in New York City at the time. I left. I went out to the beach, where I live now, and rented a little cabin by the water and just sat in contemplation and meditation. Went back to my Ayurvedic rituals, went back to meditating every day, went back to my healthy lifestyle, just surrendering, praying, like releasing just a lot of loss, a lot of fear, a lot of anger, a lot of cathartic releasing of emotions and just physical toxins from all of the treatments I had been through. My body was like really felt like it had been through trauma. And as I sat there in that space, I started to feel like a renewed sense of possibility, of hope. It's just like I went through the cycle of like the deepest darkness and I started to come up through the other side. And because I was no longer feeling desperate, I was just feeling more open and receptive. And I didn't have the doctors. I kind of released. I decided if I were to ever try again, I wouldn't go the medical route. And I have no judgment on that. I help a lot of women who are going through fertility treatments. And I think for some women, that is their path. That's the path that is best for them and works for them. But I knew in my soul that that wasn't my path. Because it didn't work for me. I wasn't able to like stay in my healthy, happy place. The hormones they didn't work well with my personal physiology of my body. It made me crazy. So anyway, I started to feel a renewed sense of hope. And at that time, I met a man who's now my partner, the father of my daughter. And we met and we connected on a spiritual level and emotional, and we fell in love. And I remember saying to him, I just want you to know I'm 40 at the time. By then I was like 44, I think 44, and I can't have children. Like, I don't think I'll be able to ever, have a baby. And if it's something that you want, then you probably should, move on to the next woman. And he was like, what do you mean? Of course you can have a baby. Look at you. You're young, you're beautiful, you're da, 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 da. And I'm like, yeah, but I've tried and it hasn't worked before. So anyway, we decided that if we couldn't get pregnant, that we would adopt. And that was, and I felt much more confident in adopting a child with this person. And I knew that I was destined, I'm destined to be a mother no matter how it happened. At that point, I gave up the attachment to it being my baby or carrying it in my belly. I just knew that I was meant to hold a space for a child to come into the world, right? And so I stopped using birth control, and a month later I got pregnant.
Wow.
Naturally. Boom. And then I had a miscarriage 8 weeks later. And that was rough. I'm sure many of the women who are listening have been through miscarriage. When you go to for your checkup and they find the heartbeat is no longer there, and that was a very, very challenging time because it was the first time I'd actually gotten pregnant. I was so elated, but I think I was nervous. I think my intuition was telling me that this might not work out. And then I moved through that, and that's a whole other story. I'm actually in the process right now of writing a book with, I don't know if you know Nancy May from the Energetic Fertility Method.
Yeah.
Yes, Nancy and we're very close colleagues. We've worked on a lot of projects together, and we're writing a book on fertility and loss, which is very exciting. So some of those stories will be in that book if you want to learn more about healing from loss. But this story has a happy ending. I guess the doctor told me wait 2 cycles. I waited whatever those 2 cycles were. Next cycle, pregnant again. Boom. And that was my daughter. That was Jaya. She stayed with me, and I started to see her in visions. Well, actually, I started to see her in visions. I should tell you that before I got pregnant the first time, I started to see her. She started to come to me, the spirit baby. I felt her. I saw her. She spoke to me when I was in that state of that deep meditative place, when I was detoxing on that retreat. In that retreat space, she came to me. So I knew she was coming. I knew she was a girl. I knew she was going to, be healthy and perfect and beautiful. So I got pregnant with Jaya in July of 2008, and I was 45. And then I gave birth to her in March of 2009. And then when I was 46, and I had a healthy, beautiful pregnancy, no complications. A beautiful birth, and now she's 14.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's such a beautiful testament to anything is truly possible. I mean, and you spoke so beautifully to the experience you had with the fertility specialist. And I think that is such a common experience that women go through. And to look at you and your background, you had such a solid foundation of health and conviction in your practice. So to hear that everything you went through, really trying to force something to happen, so to say, it almost broke you, right? Like it broke you out of your practice, and you had such a strong foundation. So it just, like, you spoke to it, like the words you used were just beautifully descripted. And for any woman who's maybe going into that space who doesn't have that strong foundation, like that just really, really struck me, what you shared. And I didn't know that you had a loss. I didn't know that part of your story. So I'm so sorry for that, and just holding space for you. And then another piece is, it's very interesting, you were with this man in the beginning of your story, and the pregnancy didn't happen. And I have this feeling that was very intentional, right? Because you were meant to have a baby with your partner now, and that's who your daughter wanted to come through.
Yep. Yeah, she wasn't coming.
Mm-hmm.
No, she was waiting.
Yeah.
Waiting. And yes, to that point, I do feel I mean, if it was so hard for me, someone who had been, really already living this very conscious lifestyle, to if it was so easy for me rather to get thrown off track
Yeah.
by the stress of that fertility journey, and then took me a while to get back to myself. Like it took a couple of years. Like it wasn't just like a couple of days. It was like a few years that it took me to actually snap out of that, that grasping, that trying to control, that desperation, right? And I do, when many of the women that I work with, it's really hard. Like it's hard when you're being told, like, you have advanced maternal age, you have low you have this, you have that, and they're throwing all these labels on you. And unless you have some real strong sense of self, which even if you do, it can get wiped away. It can just get knocked down when somebody starts putting all these labels on you. And it's often a male, right? It's often a male. And I don't mean to, bring that in, but that's, the male medical patriarchy is what we have. Most of the fertility experts are men. There's very few women in that field. There's starting to be more, thank God. But it's like defeminizing, right? It's like taking away your feminine power. I mean, we know as women that, we've been having babies and birthing babies and delivering babies and mourning babies and losses and miscarriages and womb issues. We've taken care of all of that ourselves for endless, since the beginning of time. Women healed one another in this realm of fertility and womb health. And it's only very recently that the male medical structure started to take over. And I don't feel like, I feel like it's really important, the empowerment piece, and we don't talk about this a lot in the fertility realm, and I just landed on it right now. So here we go. But I just think, like, stepping into your power is really important, and standing up for yourself and believing that you have the ability to mother, to birth, to conceive, and that no matter what anybody else is telling you or whatever statistics they're throwing at you, that can really affect your mindset. And as we know, our mindset can affect our reality, right? So yeah. And then the genetic stuff, like when you're in your 40s and you get pregnant, and then they send you to the genetic counselor. I don't know if you have ever been to one, Katie, but like they hold up these charts and it's like, okay, we just want to let you know that when you're 25, 1 in 2,000 women have a child with an abnormal chromosome. By the time you get to 40, it's 1 in 24, or some like crazy numbers that they're throwing. Oh, maybe I was 44 and it was like 1 in 12, or it was some number. And I was just like, really? Is that the counseling you're giving me? Like scaring the hell out of me. But by that point, I had already stepped into my power. I knew my baby girl was coming because my intuition told me, because I saw her in my meditation, because I felt in my soul that she was going to be healthy, and I knew it. And I said to that genetic counselor, I am so sorry, but this is not productive at all for me right now. So let's just move on. Like I did what I had to do, but thank you very much, but no thank you, and goodbye. And I walked out of the office and I was like, are you kidding me? So yeah, we're definitely set up to be stressed.
Yeah, it's so funny that you said that about giving your power away. I just did a post about that this week, about all the things we're giving our power away to. And one of them was like your doctor and labs or testing and things like that. And yeah, for myself, I had this random test at like a college fair where it must have been a fertility clinic. I was so young and just did it for the heck of it. But they had called me and said, you have low AMH. And I was in my 20s. I was on birth control. kind of put it to the back of my mind because at that point kids weren't on my mind. But then when my husband and I were trying and it wasn't happening, that thought creeped out of the, cobwebs of my mind. And it was like, oh, that's why I have low AM, and we make these statements, which are really someone's opinion or perspective, our truth. Like we really just hold on to it and almost like it imprints on like a cellular level, like, oh, I can't get pregnant. I have PCOS. I could never get pregnant on my own. Or I'm 40. My eggs are old. I can't, oh, the doctor says I have to do this. So this is what I have to do. And you're so right. I'm so glad that you brought that piece up because it really is just one opinion, one perspective through a very Western conventional lens.
Yep. And the thing is that, I am fully on board with women working with fertility experts. I think that they help so many women conceive that would never have been able to, that there is great value in the science. I am not a naysayer to science, but if you're going to work with a fertility specialist, just know that that's one piece of your potential puzzle of the tools that you have to bring your baby in, right? That's one part of it. And there are so many other parts that you have control of, right? That you don't have to give away all of your power. You can give a little bit of it to them and you trust in your doctors because they have medical expertise and that's okay. But the rest of the parts of the puzzle, your spirit, your faith, your physical health, your emotions, your mindset, all of those things, that's stuff that you can work on yourself. And I do believe if you work on everything and then you're working with a fertility expert to trust them to do what they do and not rely on them to do it all, to be miracle workers, right? That's when the positive outcomes happen, right? When you just throw all of your eggs into their basket and just sit back in a very laissez-faire way and trust that they're going to do it for you, then I think that's when we get frustrated, we get anxious and we get worried because we don't have any control. We give our control away, right? Taking action, I think, is really important for keeping ourselves in a holistic way as healthy and vibrant and joyful as we can be. And then a little help from the fertility expert, it doesn't hurt. So I think it's really, putting that all into perspective. And in that way, we can stay in our empowerment, right? And just use them as a facilitator to do what they do best.
Yeah, I agree. And my nephew is from IVF, so definitely not against it, but I agree with you that really holding your own power in the things that you can control and not just going forward with it as if it's like the easy button and that it's just going to take care of everything for you. There's a lot of moving pieces and a lot of things that you can do to really keep your nervous system regulated and keep yourself grounded while you are going through that process, because it is, I mean, I've never been through it personally, but I know that there's so many different steps and pieces and things that you have to do. And then the hormones themselves can really, kind of mess with you mentally, physically, emotionally, and just so many things. So I feel like this is a wonderful segue into yoga and how you feel that really helped you, how that helped you ground and connect back into your body, back to self. And we can kind of weave into how you help your clients with that as well. Today's episode of Rising into Mindful Motherhood is proudly sponsored by the Confident Conception Membership. Are you or someone you know on what feels like a never-ending journey to motherhood, facing an uphill battle of fertility challenges? I'm Dr. Katie, your podcast host, pharmacist, and integrative fertility coach with over a decade of experience. I've been where you are, and I understand the roller coaster of emotions and heartache. That's why I've created the Confident Conception Membership, a program designed to help you address the real reasons behind fertility challenges. Like my client Elizabeth, who struggled with fertility for 9 years, having tried and failed other programs. She was in disbelief when just a couple of months into using my Confident Conception method, she finally got her first positive pregnancy test and welcomed her healthy baby boy this year. Using the Confident Conception method, we combine traditional medicine and energy healing to unlock your innate and abundant fertility potential. This isn't just about putting a Band-Aid on to cover up the physical symptom. It's about healing the energetic and physical root causes. As a member, you'll receive personalized guidance, bi-weekly live coaching calls, and become a part of a supportive community of like-minded women who truly understand what you're going through. We offer flexible payment options, plus our annual members receive exclusive savings and bonuses to accelerate their path to pregnancy. Don't let another month of frustration and overwhelm pass you by. As a special offer to our listeners, you can use the promo code PODCAST10 to receive 10% off the lifetime of your membership. Secure your spot now and expedite your journey to motherhood today by visiting www.youремpoweredfertility.com/membership to learn more and enroll. Together, we'll pave the way to your confident conception for a future filled with joy, unconditional love, and the pitter-patter of tiny feet. The link is in the show notes. Sign up today and your future self will thank you.
So the first thing I'll say is that, from a scientific perspective, there has been a great deal of research on not just yoga specifically, but mind-body practices, meditation, Tai Chi, yoga, many of the Eastern practices that are meant to, regulate mind, body, hormones, nervous system, to bring us into balance, to calm and quiet the mind, etc., to move the energy of the body. So there is one particular study, a very, very large study was done. It's an older study. It was done like 20 years ago, but the results were like extremely significant. A woman doctor by the name of Alice Domar did a fertility study I think it was in the late 90s. And it was at the Herbert Benson Mind Body Institute at Harvard University, which is a very reputable teaching hospital. And the study showed that women who practiced mind-body techniques were 3 times more likely to get pregnant than women who didn't. They had 2 groups, a control group who didn't do anything, and then the group that practiced yoga and meditation, Tai Chi, a couple of other different things. So the science backs it, right? The other thing that study showed, which was really interesting, was the level of stress that women on the fertility journey are experiencing are similar to the levels of stress that women experience who have been diagnosed with cancer.
Yeah, I've heard that one before.
Heard that one. And that's like, whoa, right? Because I am a breast cancer survivor, and I know what that feels like to be diagnosed with cancer. And I have to tell you, in some ways, the fertility journey is even worse, right? In some ways, it's even worse because it's just feels like it's endless and there's no solution. When we get diagnosed with certain cancers, there's doctors, there's treatments, there's things that can be done, right? And fertility journey sometimes is just like, you just don't know when or how it's going to happen. But anyway, the point is that these practices have been proven. So it's not just my story, but I have my story and I have endless stories from my clients. Yoga is a lifestyle. It's not just doing yoga poses. So yoga poses or yoga exercises, like going into certain positions with your body, is one part of yoga. But yoga is really a philosophy. It's a lifestyle, right? So when we talk about being a yogi or a practitioner of yoga, there are some people that just take classes and do yoga exercises. And then there are some people that walk a yogic path, and that is living a spiritual lifestyle. So it means being conscious. The idea is to the ultimate goal of yoga is to unite with the source, with the energy of the divine, with God, to realize that you are divine, that your essence is already awake, it's alive, it's joyful, it's blissful, that we all are of this same essence, that we all are one. That's the ultimate goal. And through the practice of yoga, we can do things like work with our physical body. Absolutely wonderful way to tone the reproductive organs, to keep your hormones in balance, to balance your nervous system. For sure, we work with breathing practices, which to me are the key. They're the key to fertility for me are the yoga breathing practices. They are simple, they're easy to do, anyone can do them, and they don't cost anything, they take very little effort, and they have huge results. You can see your nervous system shift from sympathetic to parasympathetic in like 5 minutes if you do a certain breathing technique, right? Very easy to do. The learning how to kind of begin this idea of meditation, which for some people, I know this is a big subject and a very challenging one, but in yoga, it's broken down into like 4 steps. And the first step is just trying to bring our awareness inward more. So we're not so distracted by the 5 senses, but we're actually turning those senses to a more internal space so we can start to be in observing our nature, our true nature, our true spirit. And then we learn to start to use certain concentration techniques to start to quiet the mind and quiet the thoughts. We work with ultimately, once we can start to quiet the mind, just listening and being in what we call just in a place of self-observation, where we can open these kind of portals or these spaces so we can connect to intuition, can connect to spirit. Our intuition is going to guide us, right? Ultimately, and especially if you're on the fertility journey, there's so many decisions you have to make, so many choices you have to make. If there is a way for you to work through these yoga practices to open the intuitive channel, then you will get the answers to the questions that you desire. Am I going to be a mother? Is my baby coming? How can I bring my baby in, right? All of the questions that we want the answers to, they're already there, right? From a yogic philosophical perspective, we believe you already know the answers. It's just your mind is so busy and so distracted that there's no space for the answers to come in, right? So that's why we meditate, is so that we can understand and learn about ourselves and our destiny, what we call our dharma, our place in the world. Are we meant to be a mother? If so, how are we going to serve as a mother? And then ultimately, the goal of yoga is to reach that state of merging, oneness, enlightenment. And that, sometimes people aren't ready to go there. Usually comes when we, reincarnate, when we move into our next cycle. But so the yoga practice, and of course, I didn't mention the first 2 steps of yoga, which are the yamas and niyamas, which basically are the kind of the principles with which one lives by, right? Living from a place of non-violence, from a place of truthfulness, from a place of non-hoarding, from a place of non-stealing, from just the basic, just kind of living in the world and being a good person, right? That's the yamas, the first step. And then the second step is, how do we take care of ourselves, and how can we live in a place that's more pure? How can we be less addicted to things? That's brahmacharya. How can we be more in self-awareness, right? Learning about ourselves and our actions, and why we do things, and how we do things, and how we can do things better. And then Ishvari Pranadhana, which is the final step of the second limb, which is just really surrendering to source, surrendering to the divine, trusting, believing that there is a greater plan for you, and allowing yourself to be in a state of happiness, even though you might not be exactly where you want to be right now, without giving up hope that you could potentially be there someday, right? So living in the moment of gratitude, experiencing happiness. So a lot of these principles are the foundation of yoga. And then from there, we start to move into the more physical practices to clear the body, tone the organs, to move energy out, negative energy out. We work with the pranayamas, the breathing techniques to access our emotional centers. That's where the chakras lie, or in the subtle body. And so we clear out the emotional, what we call karmic imprints, the stuff that we bring in from past lives or that we've accumulating during this lifetime. And many of us have been through trauma, right? We have trauma in our womb, we have trauma in our heart. And the blockage or stagnation can actually prevent the fertility process from happening. It can prevent conception because our field isn't open to receive, right? There's a block. And so working through those blocks, using the pranayamas and additional practices, mantras, mudra, very powerful. And then we enter into the meditation practice and ultimately the intuitive awareness. And once you open the intuitive channel and you connect with your spirit baby, once you know what your destiny is, then you can just completely relax and enjoy, even though you might have to wait a year or two. You can enjoy that year. You can be with your partner if you have a partner. If you're single, you can enjoy your single life. You can enjoy the freedom you're going to have for a year or two before you become a mother. And then you're so busy with your baby all the time, you don't have any time for yourself. So I think that, yoga on so many levels served me. Of course, the asana, the poses is something I do. I meditate every day. I do breathing every day. I can't, it's like flossing my teeth, right? I breathe to clear my chakras. But there are so many stories that I have of clients who use these practices and were freed from mental anguish, from physical stagnation, AMH levels changing, numbers shifting, and, just finding ways to be happy, to be happy while you're trying. That to me is such a key, such a key to this whole thing. Because I know I was not happy when I was trying and I wasn't getting pregnant. The minute I let go and decided to just experience, my life and receive and be joyful, she came. And that's the thing. One more thing I will say on that is that these babies are, some of us believe, I'm from that school, that the women who are going through the fertility challenges are going through them because the souls that have chosen them are asking them to evolve. They're saying, Mommy, I need for you to evolve. These are the areas you're being challenged because it's important for you to grow. And not because, it's because the baby wants them to come, but it's also an agreement that our souls make, before we even come into our bodies in this incarnation. We have a plan. We know what our challenges are going to be. We choose them because we want to evolve, because we want to be better, because we want to grow. And the babies are, they're like our little teachers. They're like, come on, Mommy, you can do this. You can get up every morning, and instead of having a Dunkin' Donut and a coffee, you can have your green smoothie. You can do it, or like whatever it is, right?
Yeah, that is so true. And I also am of that school of thought too. It's really a beautiful opportunity for you to transform and evolve and just change, really connecting with your higher self and just being the person that you are on this earth to be. And I feel that that is one way that my fertility journey has definitely shaped, where I am today. I was a retail pharmacist and now I'm a holistic fertility coach. Like it completely like 360. So I completely agree with you. And that was just a wonderful explanation, deep, very informative of yoga, just not on like the surface level of going to yoga classes per se. So many benefits, and just kind of rerouting back to a couple of the things you said, like the breathing practice you said is like one of the most powerful things, mindful breathing. Well, just kind of thinking a couple steps ahead, thinking about how can that serve you when you're in birth, right? When you're giving birth, having that practice solidified, and then opening up those intuitive channels. Yes, fertility you need to make a lot of decisions. Some of them are not so black and white and clear. You have to really tap in, but also that's going to happen during pregnancy. That's going to happen during birth. When you have your child, there's going to be so many decisions that you have to make. And when you're connected to that inner knowing, that space, it really makes it a lot easier, I think, in my experience at least.
Absolutely. Like I always say, like when I'm working with my clients, all of the practices that I'm teaching them are yes for their fertility for now, but ultimately they're going to carry them through their birth. They're going to carry them through pregnancy, through birthing, through motherhood, and they're going to help to create a healthy lifestyle for their family. Yep. And it's going to allow their children to then, like, you're creating an intergenerational pattern. Like, you're going to be showing and demonstrating to your children, this is how a healthy, happy, balanced family looks like. Mm-hmm. And then your child is going to share that with their family, and it's going to be passed down for multi-generations. So the shift that you're making right now in your life is profoundly, it's profound because it's going to shift the future generations of your family. Like, it's amazing. I see my daughter. I see she's 14. She's a teenager, but she definitely is a typical teenager, but there's certain things that she does that I'm like, oh, I love it. Like, she has her little like crystals in her room, and then she has her oracle cards, and like she does her little things, even though she's just a typical teenager. But like, there's some things that I know she just absorbed from me. She blesses her food. There's certain things that are just simple little things that she's watched me do year after year after year, and have influenced her. And I think because of that, she's stronger and she feels safer than a lot of the young girls her age. She feels her self-esteem is like deep, because she believes in something greater, and her physical body, she respects her body. She thinks about what she puts in her body, because we all think about that in our home. It's something that's important. It doesn't mean we don't go out for ice cream and all that stuff. Of course, we're a normal family, but it's, there's a consciousness around it that our children, they absorb it, and it's beautiful. And it doesn't take a huge amount of effort. It's just tiny little shifts. Small little shifts can make a huge difference.
Yeah. And in looking at, maybe there are certain ways that you were raised that didn't sit well with you, and that's how your parents were raised. And I feel like if in your life you're having this curiosity, this like inner nudge to kind of look into things like this, it's because this is where those patterns and those cycles stop, right? They're meant to stop with you. And this is your opportunity to do that for your child, but also, like you had mentioned, future generations. Like it goes so far beyond just getting a positive pregnancy test and all of those things. It does far greater than that.
It really is. I mean, I know for the women who are trying to conceive that right now, that's the goal. And I remember that. And it's so interesting because the minute you get that confirmed pregnancy, then it's all about delivering a healthy baby. Then your whole reality shifts. And then once you birth the baby, then it's like, oh gosh, all right, we got like a whole future ahead of us here. Now what are we going to do? Right. Just trying to, we just want our children to be happy. We want them to be healthy. And so, we are their role models. They're going to do what we do. So I think learning some healthy lifestyle habits that you can integrate into your home, into your family, will make a huge difference.
So for anyone who's listening, if they don't live anywhere near you, is there any way that they, like, do you do online virtual yoga classes? I know that you do, I think it's on Wednesdays, like an IG live class. I've seen those come up. So I'd love to hear, what those things look like that you do.
Actually, now I remember what I was going to say, which was, there are some very easy ways to kind of start stepping into the yoga experience.
Mhm.
And one of them is to just do some yoga classes, right? That's the easy way. And yes, I do on IG Live on Wednesdays at 1 p.m. I do a mini fertility yoga class. Usually they're like 20 minutes or so. And each week I focus on a different topic. They're all posted on the Sacred Fertility Yoga Facebook page and the @Sacred Fertility Yoga Instagram page. I do suggest the Facebook because the quality is better of the video on the Facebook. Excuse me, I'm going to sneeze. But either one, they're all there. And I also have several offerings. So I have a few workshops that are virtual that you can sign up for. One is about how to build a fertility altar. You can see my fertility altar is behind me here. I'm not going to go into so much into it right now. It needs a little housekeeping because I was moving some stuff. But I also do one-on-one private yoga consultations where we do like a 75-minute session. I make an assessment and then I design a program specifically for you because we all really are different and all of our bodies are different and we all have different needs. And that includes yoga poses, mantra, mudra, pranayama, breathing techniques, all of that. I also do something called Akashic Records readings, which I don't know. Do you know about the Akashic Records, Katie?
So I've heard of it many times, but I haven't actually done research on it. So
Yeah.
please do share.
Yeah, so well, the Akashic Records, it's believed in many of the mystical traditions that there is this kind of the book of life that's held in this etheric library where it has the vibrations and patterns of every single soul and every single lifetime. And so I've been trained as a practitioner. It's like a channeler where I can go in and I can access the records. So when I work one-on-one with a client, you will provide me with a series of questions and we'll go into the records and you'll ask the questions and then I will channel the answers.
Hmm.
So it's a beautiful practice. I love it. I do it myself personally and I do it for clients. It's very mystical. Somehow I was gifted with this ability. And I just love doing it. I get so many beautiful messages and then I'm able to share them with my clients. And then the main offering that I have is my 7 Steps to Sacred Fertility Yoga group coaching program. And that's like an 8-week coaching program. That's all done virtually. We meet on Zoom. All of the lessons are in the virtual classroom. There's yoga classes, there's meditations, there's resource lists, there's homework we do every week. We gather together. There's 8 lectures. There's a ebook. There's a whole bunch of stuff. So if you, I don't know, you can post the link or something. My website is about to be relaunched. It's in the process of being, the old website is still there. So people can go there, and they can reach out to anyone on my team by just putting a message in the contact. But the new, I don't know when this podcast is being offered, but my new website will be up in like 3 days.
Okay. It'll be probably September time.
Okay. So the new website will be up then. So all those offerings will be on my website and you can just click and read the descriptions and you can schedule and we can work together. And if you want free offerings, as I said, I do Instagram Live every Wednesday. That's free if you're on a budget. I also do a monthly meditation through Sonic Yoga, which I offer. I also do a sacred healing circle. It's for women only. It's not only women on the fertility journey, but there are a lot of women on the fertility journey that come to that circle. And that's just a gathering of women. It's not recorded. We just share from our hearts and it's super beautiful. And it's led by my co-host, Wendy Joseph, who is a phenomenal healer and beautiful, beautiful woman. So those things are all free offerings. And I'm always doing workshops. I do things with Nancy May. I do things with Cara and Hillary from Cultivate Fertility. So if you get on my email list, there's lots of free offerings. And then, of course, there are the paid offerings as well, if you want to go deeper. So
beautiful. Yeah, so many things to kind of go through and find what really is calling to you or resonating with you, and amazing. And just speaking of Nancy May, I look down, I have her book. Her book is right here on my desk. And that's my next question for you. And I don't know if this is different from the book you're working on with her, but you had shared with me about the 7 Steps to Sacred Fertility Yoga. Is that a separate book from what you're working? Okay.
Yes. That's my book. That's the book about my yogic philosophy. And my personal journey. It's the story. It's a very entertaining book. It's about my story, my fertility journey, which was a little wacky and crazy. So it's my personal stories, it's modern research and science, and then it's the yogic perspective of how I move through all of the challenges. It's basically my program with my stories. And then the book I'm working on with Nancy is it's a book about fertility and loss, specifically about loss.
Yeah, and her book, The Energetic Fertility Method, I absolutely love. So I know that this book will be amazing and such a beautiful resource for women.
Yes.
When will that one be
That
released?
one will be out in 2024. We're just kind of finishing the manuscript now. These things take time, but we're hoping for early next year.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, I will definitely drop your links in the show notes. Definitely check everything out. Follow Lauren on Instagram. Do those IG lives on Wednesdays. Put a reminder in your phone. I think you said 1 p.m. and that's Eastern Standard Time. So
Yeah.
I would love to just end with any final thoughts or anything that you just really want to leave with the listeners.
I think for me, the most important thing on this journey is to just believe in yourself, to have faith. And if you're having difficulty drumming up that inner faith from your own core, then reaching out and asking for help, right? And whether that's from, if you believe in a god or a goddess, or whether that's from your spirit guides or the angels or your ancestors. One of my teachers and guides, my mentor Leela, who's from the shamanic tradition, she always tells me, Lauren, gather your team. You're not alone. Gather your team, ask them for help, ask them for support. And so that's what I suggest. If you feel like you can't do it yourself and it's too hard, then bring in your support system, bring in your guides, bring in your angels, bring in your ancestors. Maybe there's a great, great, great grandma or someone in there who's like looking down on you, who's shining her heart on you, who is giving you all of her love and energy so you can be empowered to believe in yourself and have the faith that you're going to have a beautiful outcome to all of this, and that this is just a moment, right? You're just moving through an obstacle in life, and this is what it means to be human and incarnate in this form. Is we go through challenges and then we overcome and then we grow and we learn and we expand and we live and we experience and we feel joy and all the emotions, and then sometimes it happens again, sometimes it doesn't. But this is the journey. This is what happens when you become a human being. You have to suffer sometimes a little bit, but the suffering is always an opportunity for growth and change. And I do believe in really having a support system in place. And even if it's not, your friends and family member, even if it's that ethereal support system, I encourage you all to reach out, to pray.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a beautiful note to really leave with everyone, because I think it's very easy to not think about that piece.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you might, if you're lucky, you have the support of someone on this earth with you, but you do have so many other, support systems that you could really reach out to.
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story and just your passion and your light that you have in this world. And it was a pleasure just speaking with you.
Yeah, it was wonderful. Thank you so much, Katie. Namaste. Sending everyone lots of love and hope and prayers and triumph, positive outcomes always for all of you.
Beautiful.
Namaste.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the Rising into Mindful Motherhood podcast. If this episode resonated with you or gave you an aha moment, stop what you're doing right now and write a review. This simple act of kindness helps me get this podcast out to connect with as many women as I possibly can. I also have a special offer. If you send me a screenshot of your review, I will take $250 off one of my premium coaching containers. Let me know what resonated with you the most and why. So connect with me in my free Facebook community or tag me on Instagram. You'll find both listed below. Thanks again from the bottom of my heart for tuning in to this episode, and I'll see you next time.